Well, hello again. I'm trying something new here. Um, I thought I'd see if I can make this work. We don't know. We don't know. Um, Essentially, what I did is I recorded some matches with Tank that I did a little earlier today. And the reason that I wanted to go through this in this format, or try to do this anyways, is sometimes it can be good to look at things in retrospect. There's things that you think about after the fact that aren't exactly true. The other thing too is some of the things you complain about mid-game, if you watch it again, they're not accurate. But the one thing I wanted to show this for is this is one of the examples of something where um, by the end of it, I was a little bit frustrated. Now, bear in mind that I know that when I squad with Tank, it's going to be a mixed bag. That's not because Tank's not a good player. It is because he squads with anyone. This goes back to what I was saying in some of, at least one of my other videos, if not probably a couple of them, is that the matchmaker is not friendly when you get a very, very wide spread on your squads. And there is a point where squads, it doesn't, you don't get ahead. You simply, it's almost it's very difficult to get ahead, right? If you have those kind of makeups. And so this was one of the things I thought I would show a little bit. I'm not going to speed through anything. I'm just going to let it run. I'm probably going to stop it in a few places and just see what happens here. Um, Now, I think Foca was in the 4,800 range. I can't remember exactly. And Baller Baby is in the 6,800 range. I'm in the 6,400 range. And I think Tank was in the 5,800 range, I want to say. I don't know exactly. So this is my usual habit on this map. I try to get 2 beacons right off the bat. This is one of the ones you can get 2 on. A lot of times, evil Dr. Fowles took my number 2. Ha! That didn't sound good. Took a number 2. Great. Good job. Good job, Rez. Because then what I like to do from there is I would generally have myself a little bit of a well, I'd be at 100%. I'd have my orbital strike ready, and that allows me to jump into some other stuff a little more aggressively. Without it, I have to step back just a notch and be a little more measured. Now, right now, 3 beacons, and I have touched all 3 beacons that have been picked up. We now see beacon number 2 going bye-bye. And if we look around on the screen, right? We're just going to pause it here. You'll notice in no cases, as we're looking around on some of this, are we seeing much for team members even moving forward towards our beacon. And you can see we've already lost the one I just took. Nobody's come forward to grab beacon B, and only the home beacon remains. Okay? And we're what? Just a few minutes in? Now look at them though. They're all bunched up back there. Baller Baby. He's a camper. So somebody's going to go get them, just like I go get campers. And there he goes. You saw the other one down there on the side as we were going by. Let's just back it up just a notch here real quick. What's the best way to do this? I don't know. Sorry. Okay, here we go. Notice right back there, another camper. Tank's out there doing his thing, which we like. But look around, look around. Look into the background a little bit. You know, where's my team? What are they doing? See, that beacon that Tank just took, it's already gone again. And that's it. Right there. Down goes about everybody around now. I want to say this match is like a wipe for everybody except for me in about 5 minutes. I want to say that was it. Now this one I find kind of interesting. Normally I would turn this guy in because I don't mind if you can take a lot of damage, but man, it gets a little sus when the bar doesn't move. Now you do see a little bit coming off, and he is linked, and I couldn't tell what he was linked to. I forget. He might have been linked to another Leo. So, Look at my team though. Nobody is past number 2 beacon in a forward position. Closest thing they get is to shooting at some people in beacon number 3, the middle beacon. Technically off there on the side. At this point, I think Tank goes down by the time I turn back around, and so is this other guy. Tank out there. There's Sam Jack. Sam Jack's gone. The other guy's gone. And it's just me. So, one of the big problems with heavily mixed groups is the matchmaker is gonna do its matching based off your top guy. And, you know, I've said this before, is, you know, if you're in a 2-man and you got somebody in there with, say, like, I'm just going to go to a little bit high. Say you got a 2,000 points above you on the leagues, right? If you're just 2-manning with him, the system doesn't really seem to say, oh, that requires another squad as competition. If you really watch, you'll be surprised the number of times 2-mins drop in against randos. The matchmaker doesn't put them in the same category. But as soon as if you take that one, and we'll say the one's got 6,000 rating and one's got a 4,000 rating. You add a third person to that, let's say has a 4,500 or a 5,000 rating, you're doomed. Because the matchmaker's now going to say, oh, hey, look, we got 3 people capable of fighting at 6K. It doesn't look at the other 2 as individuals beyond the top 1. Oh, and the one other thing too, and let's just back this up a notch, because I can move it back up. That's fine. That's fine. Let's just look at something. Let's look at our own numbers a little bit here, and see what we got going on. See what we got. 30-second, but 10-second back. I want a 10-second forward, so it's a smaller little bit. Okay. Relatively fast fight because it was a total wipe for everybody but me on my team at around 5 minutes or so. That's fast. This is a 10-minute match, and they're wiped at 5. 357K. 0, 0, 0. That guy just took like you know what that does? By having that discrepancy so great between what he did and what's required to even be remotely close to competitive, right? Right there. -5 league for me in the number 1 slot. Why? My performance have anything to do with this rating at all? No, it doesn't. It is entirely this guy down here. This one guy brings the whole team down. It's just a fact. Now, if I was the odd man out, if I was at like say 7K and the next closest person to me was 5K and then he's at 4,800, I'm the problem. Okay? But in this particular case, I'm not even the highest one here. That makes him the problem. And what I've never understood, because 0-0, I love it. Tank's always complaining about people not getting beacons, but you ever watch Tank's beacon counts? He has his moments, but on average, he's not the guy that should be talking about beacons. But look at this. Remember, that board that we were just on, by my counts, it's very possible to get 2 beacons up front. And because you can get 2 beacons up front, I will discount the first 2 beacons on your bars and on the opponent's bars to see who did what. So we got 0, we got 0, we got 0, we got 0, and we got 2, and we got 2. If we move over here, we got 0, 0, 1, 2, 1, 1. So we had 4 different people picking up 5 beacons. We had 2 people that each picked up 2 different ones aside from home. And none of these guys, Dr. Faust included, he tried very hard. I saw him over there trying to do something. These 3 guys right here were the ones that were trying to push. These 3 guys right here were campers. It doesn't matter if you think I'm being harsh or not. When you start looking at and breaking down the matches, you'll start to see that it has nothing to do with the person. It is the play style. Think of it this way. You can also look at the bots and do that. Okay? So this new bot, the Kaji, that bot is what I classify as a dependent. Okay? That bot is not capable of pushing the board by itself. It requires other bots to do it, right? Sure. If every bot was like it, but I don't deal in the realm of exceptions. I deal in the realm of averages. Um, not what is possible, but instead what is probable. And bots like the Kaji, it is more probable that, geez, I wasn't watching the time. Come on. I didn't realize this took so long to get in. Give it a bump. Ah, there we go. It's just the start of Yama, the one I hate the most. Again, this is one where it's very possible to get 2 beacons up front. So when I go to the end and I do a beacon count, I subtract 2. This is how you really know what happened, right? If you go out there and you say, hey, I got a beacon or 2, be honest. Were they the first 2 beacons? Were they the 2 home beacons? And if they are, subtract them. That's how much you did to push the game forward. Not defend, push. And see, the Kaji's a dependent. It really can't push. That's why you don't see it as the #1 in the new meta. It's the reason why the Teth is the #1 meta. It's not necessarily because it's so tough. Because it's tough, it can push the map. And its ability to push the map is what makes it drive the meta. Same with the sword. You know, you run into these ones where you got 3-4 guys out there just dropping those non-stop. It's really hard to deal with because they can keep pushing forward. They move forward, they pop up, they go after, they drop down, they move forward, right? And because they're running with 2 mediums and 2 lights, which on my little scoreboard, you know, that gives them a grand total of 5 on their mount point damage score. That's pretty high. This is why the old Ravens are still somewhat functional, right? I mean, a Raptor is a 4.5. Bare minimum to be functional as a brawler, really. Was it? No, 4.25. Bare minimum to be functional as a brawler. 4.5 and up is preferred. So, you know, when you look at the Teth, you know, what's the Teth? 5.25 or something like that? That's why it does so well. It's high damage and whatever. The Ultimate Lancelot, by my markers on that one comes in at, geez, 4.5, 6.75. That's why it hits so hard. Massive amount of damage on it. So, but recognize your bots too, right? Some bots are dependents. Some bots are independents. You don't want a hanger full of dependents. You are not getting tax breaks here, people. That's not what's happening, right? The more dependents you have does not equal more tax breaks. So it's okay to have 1 or 2 dependents in your hanger. Me, I prefer to have like like 0 in my first 2 hangers, maybe 1 or 2 in 4 hangers, but realistically, if you're a little less oriented that way than I am, you're going to find yourself very, very functional to be able to do 1 or 2. I really think you need to keep it to a minimum. Now, there's something I'm going to back up right here because the battle's nice and all, but let's just move back a notch or a few. I want to show you something. So this goes back to kind of what I was saying before again, right? I went down and I just decided to watch a little bit. Look at the beacons. Look at where the red is. Look at where my guys are. Look at the one person trying to move forward. Bless his heart tank. And where's everybody else? Where are they? The guy that I'm on is the next closest thing. And he does not move past this thing right here. Why? Because he's got those new weapons on there. So he's firmly invested in camper mode. At this point, I decide, that's why you'll see me collapse this, I decided to watch a little bit. I'm like, well, how bad is it? Right? I do this from time to time. I don't do it. See, I noticed tanks down there. You saw me move my mouse around over it. Now I'm looking back. I'm looking back at the other guys. Whoop, see, there's Baller Baby. Way, way in the back. There's Folka. Well, it doesn't matter what Folka does. They come over and they fart on him and he tips over. You know? I don't care how much he feels good. Running with the big boys. He's just hurting us. Hurting himself. So I hope he had a good time. And I don't mean that to be sarcastic at all. I hope that considering what it cost the team, that he really did enjoy himself. Because, you know, he didn't help. At any point, he didn't help. Baller Baby, he's always in the back. So he might have, you know, 6,800 rating. But let me ask you something. Do you think that's going to win matches for you? Nope. Like all people that do play that game that way, he can have his moments. But he's not getting beacons. He can't push the field. He's dependent on somebody else to make a mistake. He's dependent upon somebody else to push the field. He's dependent. That's a dependent. Look at Tank right up here with me. It's because I saw Tank switch to his Titan to move forward that I dropped this bot and came up. Because I saw it as an opportunity. Right? Tank got that beacon. Now we're up there. Get this guy off Tank. And see if I can't press this beacon here a little bit, draw some attention. Now what I didn't see, because I couldn't see it from where I was, and I didn't realize until I got up here further, is Tank was exposed. And unfortunately, there he goes, to a sword. But I managed to get this beacon during that time. That gives us 4. Now we're looking at the beacon bar, and we were pushing off. At this point, I know that I have no chance of beating these people. You can count it. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 people coming in on me. Sword lining up way in the back, up there, coming around the corner, everybody. Doesn't matter. I'm not going to try to run. I want them clustering up right there, because if they're clustering up right there, guess what they're not doing? They're not going towards beacon C. They're not going to center. So at least then, hopefully, even my campers will move forward enough to be able to put up a little bit of a defense for when they turn back around. And with enough time, we can get in there and try to not so much drive them back, you know, because that guy in center is going to kill our guy in there. Not so much to drive them back, no, but to preoccupy them in such a way that they don't move forward, right? Because we've got the one beacon. Look at the beacon bars and how tight they are up there. We know that the guy that's up there is going to die every time that sword goes up there. He just does not have the skill. So we're going to try to, without worrying about getting kills, try to essentially put pressure on these guys right here and try to wall them off long enough to finish the match here. Oh, one got past up there, so I'm going to drive back and try to bring them up to me. Because you'll watch, look how many start to turn towards me. This is 4 out of 6 that are on me right now. There's 5. This means nobody's moving forward. See, somebody's taking another beacon. I have 5 people on me right now. Got a sword. I got this guy. Now, my guys don't seem to be jumping in and killing any of them. You notice that? Camper time. They're just hoping to get lucky. They're not thinking in terms of that. And see, we're already losing the side one, because more than likely, we couldn't see it, but the one guy who would have been there up front with me, my buddy Tank, he would have been the one. Now, we squeaked that one out, Uh, purely because of Tank and myself driving forward. Look at that. Pathetic. Again, let's just pause this real quick. Another one where you could have gotten 2 up front. 0, 0, 0, 1, 0. You only got the home one. Let's not kid ourselves. 1. That's all, any of us managed to get, but they got 3 ones. We got 2 ones. Fortunately, in the end, we were able to hold on to them at the bitter end and see. Okay, yeah, you can say, yeah. It's not enough. Not at the champions level. And let's just back up a notch. Now, you'll notice +6 this time. Why? Last time he had what? Less than 500,000, right? This time he came up to 4 million, and he wasn't the last in the list. If he had been down here and was not up to spec on the damage, we would have taken another hit. Even if he got the same damage, but for whatever reason he ended up in the 6th slot, we would have taken a hit. The other thing you'll notice is we had more than one person up to the top, right? And this only matters as far as him personally getting ahead in leagues. This does not register as being somebody, I'm not trying to be mean, that I would want to squad with on a regular basis. I would only squad with him because because I have a certain amount of loyalty to Tank, right? I like Tank. Otherwise, nah, I'm not interested. I most certainly wouldn't be there with that guy. So, let's see here. Skip this up. Skip this up. Skip it up. Let's back it up a notch. Okay, here we go. Oh, Castle. I feel like I play Castle too much. Castle, Yama, Springfield, Canyon. I think the matchmaker does it to me on purpose because I don't have any long-range pots set up in my main 2 hangars. So, see, so what I did here is I looked down there and I saw 4 reds down there. I'm not gonna go pile into 4 reds by myself. I'm aggressive but not stupid, right? This was bad though. I thought I was gonna be able to get up here, but I forget how I got pinned down. But I think I got pinned down and wiped out by what I normally consider to be kind of a GIMP setup. I kind of allowed myself to chase something I shouldn't have chased. Yeah, see, normally I don't want to go in there too much if I don't have the orbital strike. But I figured since I was there, the guy was popping off on me, more people were coming down. I'm going to try to take him out rather than take the beacon at that point, because the beacon's not going to get me anything. Here, I was literally amazed at how much damage this guy took. He got to that spot right there, and he doesn't have a last stand or anything, but man, there was just no more damage going for that guy. So then I said, okay, let's get rid of that. He did a good job of getting out of the way of my fire. I'll give him that. Getting behind that pillar. Yeah, it's exactly what I would have done, dick. Somebody linking me saved my ass for a couple of those. Allowed me to do, allowed me, I think, to get that last kill for certain, and I think one more? I forget. You know, it's not like I've reviewed this before. There was one more. I don't know if I actually end up getting that guy or not. I don't think I do. Get our numbers again. There's a couple coming back. But again, look, you know, we don't have enough people capable of pushing the battle. Look who you got, tank up there, pushing. It's pretty thin after that, right? I will say this though, right here, he cock-blocked me. Boom! Right when I was on my charge, burned my orbital strike, everything. He totally blocked me. This ended up kind of being my death, because after that, I didn't have my Frederick going, and it was too late to back out, and I ate it. Ah. So I sat and watched again, trying to decide whether or not we were going to be able to have enough time to do something at the end. And I was watching them, and look, they got a bunch of campers on their side too. These people are not moving forward. They do a lot of damage, but they don't move forward. So one of the things you can do when you end up in those positions is you can take measure of them, and you can say, you know, if you look at our beacon bars here, we have to have 4 or 5 beacons minimum. So we're not getting those. We can't stop the bar and move the other one fast enough for the clock. But let's say it was the opposite true. It is possible to do that. Well, then we could get 3 and prevent them from moving forward and work the clock down, and maybe try to squeeze, not even necessarily take the 4th one, but just turn it white so it stops clocking positive for them, right? Then you can. Here we're taking 4 again. 4 is your minimum number with this kind of a beacon count to just really stop the clock effectively and to try to start to get a shift. You're going to have more work though, you know? Because that's such a gap in the bars. And, you know, if you look at it, we're down 2 people. What a shock. Well, quite a while ago in one of my earlier videos, I had noted that, you know, one of the things, you know, tank could try to do to make it better, you know, Tony understands. Tony, he looks at matchmaker the same way I do. That's why he does 2-mans. 2-mans give you your best option, gives him the best chance to be successful no matter who he drops with, no matter what the discrepancy is, right? Gives him the best chance to be able to offer a hand, best chance for the other person to survive. He knows as well as I do. We've chatted. You drop that 3rd person into that, it's screwed. You're in a different league with the matchmaker. And yep, here we are. See, we're back down to, I have really no additional support. I've, you know, and this is why, you know, I'll get a bit frustrated because it's like, but you know, I don't stop or any of that because you know what, I chose. I knew this is what's going to happen when you get these kind of groups, right? But now think about that. You know, outside of what you see with me going through here, when you're in those mismatched groups where you've got a big discrepancy in the skill levels of your players, not just in the hangers, but in the skill levels, of your players. This is the kind of stuff that happens. It doesn't matter. This is not a game of carries. It is infinitely harder to carry in this game than it is to get good matches by dropping that high level or that low level person out. Now, I look at this stuff here and I just make note of playstyles, right? I make note of the people that I see that act as dependents versus the people I see that act as independents. Okay. Now let's just go back a notch here. First things we want to see. What was the reward at the end of this one? Again, number one again, +2. Why +2? And not +6 like the last time? Even though Folka did not hit bottom, but he hit this one and he hit nearly the similar score. More of our team was at the top. Remember in the other one, there was a rando in between them, right? and the other thing that happened, I hit a much higher score at the top. So you had a greater discrepancy in this one than the last one between the top and the bottom. This is where the variation between, technically you would normally say Baller Baby because he's got a 6800. But if we're looking at who's actually placing on the charts, when you look at the number one and you look at that and you look at this and you look at that, that discrepancy is what costs you points and costs you wins. This is why then you look at it and you say, are the other two people closer to Folka, or are they closer to Rez? If they're closer to Rez, Folka, I'm sorry, you're better off squatting with somebody else. If they're closer to Folka, Rez, I'm sorry, you're better off squatting with someone else. And that's if you want to get ahead, right? If you actually really want to get ahead. I know that by the end of this whole thing, between the wins and the losses, I came out around 20 points or so and 10% on my win rate lower than before I joined these squads. I don't even kid on that. That's what these ones cost by having that discrepancy. And honestly, get rid of Baller Baby, get rid of Foca. Tank One and I, 2 manning, would probably hit a 70+% win rate. This is, like I said, this is why Tony does that. Tony understands that part of the matchmaker. I'm kind of surprised Tank doesn't have a better understanding of the matchmaker because he said he's been playing for a long time. But this is one of the things, right? This is one of the differences between what you'll see from your very top players and your good players and your average players and stuff is how actually familiar are they with the mechanics of the game. I don't mean whether or not if you press this button, this happens. I'm talking about how does the matchmaker work. I'm talking about like the little things I showed you. Do you understand that a weapon will stop firing if you do X? Or do you understand that you'll lose your target if Y happens? Not, you know, is this shotgun better than that? Not all this theory crafting crap. You know, I don't really care about a lot of that stuff. Oh, there's 2 of them back there. No, but look again at the top bar. Look at how many of my guys are already gone. And how far into this match are we? We're barely into it. And we can't even hold our home beacon. We can't hold center. He got that one back. That's why it turned off. We just lost that one. And the problem with this is because nobody goes forward, right? Because you have two dedicated campers, it's easy to single out the people that go forward. Well, if you've got 6 people on a team and only 2 people are moving forward, guess which 2 everybody focuses fire on? The 2 that are going for the only 2 going for the beacons, right? They don't focus on the people in the back. Why? They're not going to win the match. This guy over here, Tank, going for this beacon over here, he's the one that's going to do something, right? First time I've ever seen Baller Baby up by a beacon. That's amazing. He's not used to doing that, though. You can tell because he doesn't got the beacon. And I think he got smoked. Yeah. Yep. See, there's Baller Baby pulling out his camper. Got lucky out of there, buddy. And this is why, and I know I said this in one of my earlier videos, is that really when you look at the makeup of a functional squad, one that can consistently get ahead. Oh, here we go. Thank you for going up in altitude. Alright, you just got locked down because I'm using shredders. I don't need to be able to target you. You set your elevation for me. Much appreciated. Mucho gracias, señor. Oi. And think of it this way. The people that get ahead, they're not getting ahead by overpowering everything. This thought that, these people are buying their wins. Yeah, they're buying their wins if you're low 5K, if you're 5K or lower. If you're a low 5K or if you're like 5100 and lower, yeah, you can buy wins with those guys because, they don't have that much gear. But when you get up to the point where most of the guys got their gear leveled or that, they don't even have to have all ultimates, but they've got gear that matches their play style and it's all mostly leveled up. MK212, MK29 or higher, right? At that point, right, if they're not getting above 5100, it's purely a skill issue. Yeah. You can force your way up by spending a whole boatload of money, but does anybody really think you end up with all these meatballs in low champs and mid masters, even down to expert, with all this super gear, if those people were able to kick the asses of the mid to upper champions? No. They'd be up kicking those asses, taking pride in it. I just beat the living poopers out of the professor. I just made Tony, I just gave him a pucker plug. But that's not what's happening. They go down because it's skill. Believe it or not, in order to compete at mid-champions and higher effectively, there is a certain amount of skill. Regardless of what I might have said about Baller Baby, the fact that he gets up to 6,800 means he's gotten past a certain point. Now I guarantee, if I go and I look at his win rate, it's probably pretty rare that it gets above 50%. Most cases, he's probably in the 30 to 40 some percent range. And means to get to his 6,800, he squads a lot. And you know he purely squads a lot, almost, because he's a camper. And as a dependent, he's going to seek squads. And that's the thing you can tell. You know, the people who are our dependents really look for squads. Always ready to jump into any squad at any time. I'm selective. There are certain people that, regardless of what league they're in, regardless of their skill, if they send me a squad invite, I'll join them. Now, that doesn't mean I'm going to sit there and join them for 2 hours and take 100 losses or anything like that. No, but I will join them. I will chat with them. For kicking ass, I'll stick with them as long as I can. Otherwise, I tend to follow a 3 strikes and I'm out kind of policy. If we take 3 losses in a row and it's not looking pretty, I'm just going to bow out, say good games, move on my way, try to get myself in 3 solo matches and make my points back up. Right? I haven't made my points back up from this yet. The thing of this, though, and I'd mentioned this when I was just having a little chat with Queenie, you know, and I've seen this before. I saw this with Spider, for example, Spider Taz. Like, I used to watch Spider Taz when he was first starting out, and you know, it was super choppy, super laggy, almost impossible to watch sometimes, and I would just stop watching. But he was done, I think he was down in Diamond or something when I first saw him. Might have even started out a little lower. No, around Diamond, I think, when I first saw him. And if you watched him, his entire strategy consisted of just walking in a straight line, shooting at a target. That was it. Sum total. And he loved his Skyros to go around and get beacons in without actually ever, you know, really doing much fighting with it. Just taking the beacons. And, you know, there's a limited value for that. But I used to sit there and I used to watch him just, you know, thinking to myself, you know, you could try to slip some of those shots. You could try to corner shoot. You could try to break line of sight. You could learn to play range. You could, you know, do a number of things. But at the time, you know, he was still advancing slowly but steadily, you know. And eventually he got up into champs, and for a while there, he really struggled at the bottom of champs. But then he started to kind of sort it out, right? What he needed to do to be able to get past that little hump. Now, he still has a ways to go to really be competitive with what I would consider a mid-level champ like myself. But when I say mid-level, I'm talking skill and league. I've been in Legend League before, and if I wanted to put the time in, I could probably get in there again. I mean, if you've watched it in my videos, you know that about from every hour to about every hour and 20 minutes will get me 100 to 120, 130 points league advancement. So, you know, if I did 2 or 3 hours a day like I used to once upon a past, or more, I admit I used to do 4 or 5 hours a day midweek, 8 to 12 hours on weekends, right? If I used to play like that, I'd be back up in the Legend League again. Easy. I'm just not that dedicated to this stuff anymore. I'm, you know, I've said it before, I'll say it again. I just like to get it, you know, over the low hump area of the 6Ks, get, you know, past 62, 6300, so that I start getting consistent matches. when I'm soloing and stuff, and that I don't have to worry that I'm ever running into tankers or anybody mucking around, because there's no point at that level, right? Yeah, we run into cheaters. They're everywhere, but nowhere near as many as I see down in the lower leagues. And we don't get, it's impossible to tank at over 6K, right? So anybody who's got nice gear but doesn't have skill, well, they're bags of silver for people like me up in the mid territory. High champs. That's, I'm gonna say, that's like your professor, your burrs. Maybe like your Wolf's Blood. He's pretty good. Tony Conenbaum, possibly. No, I don't know Conenbaum though. I haven't really seen much of him in regular kind of stuff. But I think he's pretty good. I think he knows what he's doing. So even though I haven't seen it, the little bit I have seen, it doesn't look like somebody who just has good gear, just got lucky. You know what I mean? I guess I just get a little bit sour on Conenbaum because his initial foray into dealing with tank was in bad faith, and there's just no way around it. I'm not saying it is now by any means, and I'm not saying I hold anything against him, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. It is one of those things. He's a good player though. And so I consider those kind of guys up in the high. I consider myself in the mid. You know, I like to joke about the fact that my, my hanger, it carries me. You know. See now, on the reason why you're seeing much more Mauler on these ones is, one, I'm ending up in a lot more situations where I'm alone. And because of that, I want something that's mobile and that has an increased amount of durability rather than an increased ability to kill. If I was on a team or in a squad that was more competitive and I didn't find myself alone so much, having to try to kind of make up ground or that kind of stuff, I would be more inclined to drop the Arthur. But what happens with the Arthur if you end up in situations like this where you're down a man already, right? And you've got not a lot of push going on, is that you get surrounded by 2 or 3 or 4, and you just don't get that much accomplished. So I opted for this guy here because, let's just face it, nothing walks through damage quite like a Mauler sometimes. You know what I mean? Because look at this. This right here allowed me to help pull a few extras out at the end, you know? I would like different weapons, but I don't know what. I just feel like these don't hit hard enough. And that's probably because I got spoiled by having 3 alphas on the Arthur, and this is 1 alpha and 2 betas. It's like the difference between getting hit with a Fury and getting hit by a Fenrir. Shooting me in the back. Bad you, bad you. But see, we finally started to get through them. We're 1 man up on them now. Some of that push helped. Man, see, getting the 1 beacon to white puts them down at one beacon, even though they're fighting to get the other one back. Clock's not on their side. There was enough time for us to essentially make a comeback. These battles are so tough though, because we are effectively down one man or more depending on what we get hit with from the randos that drop in with us. And so this is okay, +7, okay, and that's because we won. Look at this, number one, +7 because we won. If I'm solo and I win, I'll get 12 to 15. 7. Why 7? Polka. You are carrying the bottom 3 dead weight, and you are taken down by the bottom 3 when it comes to dead weight. And once again, a rando slipped in there between even our next best guy. Kind of is what it is. But what I was saying though to Queenie was this, yeah, I had made the comment simply that the skill level that'll get someone to the low 5,000s is not enough to get them above that, right? And this is why I use Spider as an example, because I watched his stuff for long enough to see where he got up to now, and until he made a change, he wasn't going to go any further. And you say, oh gosh, what's this change? Consistency. Your consistency has to go up, right? The consistency, and I don't just mean the consistency of everything has to go up. It just simply does. You know, you have to be able to slip damage. You have to be able to play ranges. You have to be able to know when to step out and step back in. You've got to know as many effects as you see. Like you walk by a guy on your team and he's got a little kind of purplish pink ring around his feet. What does that mean? What does that tell you as you're in the battlefield? You need to be aware of those things, right? I know what it tells me. It tells me right away that guy got hit with mines, right? And that there's a miner somewhere within about 350 meters, right? According, by game standards. And if I can't see any mines nearby, that means one, the guy with the orange thing got hit by them, but two, depending on what the territory is, that means he's over in X or Y direction. So either go there or avoid it. You know what I mean? But or I've heard like like Billy will say that he doesn't listen to sound. It doesn't matter, right? Well, if you watch some of my videos, one of my recent ones, you'll see me walking along and you'll see me suddenly turn right and look over at a camper with a striker firing piercers. Why? Because I was walking along and out of my right ear and only my right ear, I heard something firing. So I looked. It all matters. I hate to break it to you, but if you actually want to be up there, you have to kind of really refine your game. The skills that got you to where they are not enough. You now need to, just as a comparison, you now need to make that difference between top level college and pro, right? And it's primarily a difference in the consistency of everything, every little aspect, every little bit of your timing. Here's an example. If you're up against a mauler, are you counting? Are you counting? Are you counting how much time he's had his little arm in the air waving around with his, death mark and snare? the slow? Are you counting after every slide? How long before the healing dot thing or the dot damage absorption thing wears off? Are you counting? Because if you're not counting, um, then you're not actually assuming control. And by that I mean simply that if you know, for example, that the mauler has does this little slide thing, I mean, do hickey, right? The hook, and then you got 6 seconds. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and that's 6 seconds. Now, when you start firing, he starts taking the full damage again. Now, the problem with it, of course, is they slide again, your count starts over. But they only get a couple of slides, and if you can stay with them, I mean, this is how, if you don't have the ability to sit there and do toe to toe and just beat them down, boom, 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 because you're not in a Ultimate Arthur with a 20 million hit point shield between you and the mauler, well, then you need to be counting. Counting is how I used to beat them before, and counting is how I go after them when I'm not able to essentially try to overpower them. And that applies to everything. Everything that has a special ability has a count, right? Now, in some cases, you can visually see it, so you don't need to worry about counting it. In other cases, like with the effect for the mauler, you can't see it, so you do need to count. You just need to be, you need to up your game across the board. You need to clean everything up and lock it down and show that you're in control of your game. It won't allow you to win everything, obviously, but it does keep you moving forward. And you really, really, I cannot stress it enough, which is why I chose to just ramble endlessly about it in this video. You've got to play the matchmaker if you want to get ahead. If you don't play the matchmaker and you just play with friends like what I just did here, I went backwards. It's very easy to keep going backwards too. Like I said before, I hate to say it, I'm not trying to tell you not to play with your friends. That's not what I'm saying. But I am saying that if you actually want to get ahead in the leagues, you have to be mindful of this dynamic that I showed you right here, right? And if you want to be kick ass, you want to rock and you want to roll, well, then you've got to watch and see the difference between Tank and Baller Baby, and recognize that even though Tank has a lower league rating than Baller Baby, he's a better player and better for a squad, any squad, because he pushes the map. So if you're stuck at the bottom of champs, 4,900 to 5,100, and you just cannot get past that point, it's because the skill that got you there has topped out. And you need to improve. You either need to figure out how to do some sort of challenges or exercises to improve your game, right? Always drop a particular bot first, even though you hate it, even though you're the worst, until you master that thing. Whatever. You know, play with better players than you, but not super better, so that you have a chance to be able to keep up with them. Whatever. But you're gonna have to up your game, because what you are currently doing, it's not enough. It's what got you there. And now you have to step up, and it's extremely common. That is a huge breaking point. That's why it's such a wall. That is a skill point, not a gear point. So I wish you all the best of luck. I hope everybody um, stops worrying so much about what other people have. I see so much of that when I see the streams. People crapping on people because they spent money. That's not what's putting those people up there. They're up there because they're better than you. Yeah, the gear helps. But if they're consistently breaking 6K plus and you're struggling to get over 5100, it's not entirely gear. It's just a fact. The game is pay to play, not pay to win. You have to pay money to get the opportunity to play at the top. It does not in any way, shape, or form mean that you're going to be able to win or even be competitive. And that's why so many of you see those same people with this really nice gear down in the 4000s because they don't have the skill. And that's all the farther their gear really carries them. I feel sorry for them. Not as much as I do for the people that have to deal with them, though. And that's why I like to stay up where I am. I don't have to deal with them. Anyhow, take care, people.